Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Rohde. I am joined alongside my good friend and co-host, Tony Cepeda. And today we are doing our second and probably of 10 mock drafts for the Chicago Bears. The Bears have 5 picks this upcoming off in entering this draft, but that could change quickly with trades and other factors. The draft is in late April this year. Usually it's at the beginning of April, but is in late April, April 28th through April 30th. The Bears do not have a first round pick this year. Just want to put that out there as they traded it to the New York Giants last draft for Justin Fields. But we could still get a first round pick, could trade someone else. You never know. The Bears have some key areas of need, and Ryan Poles will be put to the test in his first NFL draft as general manager of the Chicago Bears. Tony and I will be breaking it down all for you guys. But Tony, before we begin, what is your number one area of need, and how does it impact your draft choices?
You'll see here it impacts the first overall pick in the entire draft for the Bears' first pick. I think it's offensive line. I just think we don't necessarily need to rebuild the entire offensive line. We still got Tevin Jacobs. We got guys that we can definitely build around. But just having that one extra guy that we know will be there, one for a long time, that Justin Fields can trust, and just that we know will not allow 15 sacks a game or whatever we were getting with Jermaine Ifedi. So, we can hop right into it if you're ready, Nick. I think I am, and I will be.
I do like your pick. I do like your pick. You do have a good draft. Tony said before we got on, he loved his draft, and I was like, okay, let me give a quick glance at it. And I gotta agree, this is probably out of our two, this is Tony's best draft so far.
Yeah, so I will be standing on the table, pounding the desk, whatever those phrases are for this guy for the next 8 weeks, unless something crazy happens where I don't think he should even be drafted at all. It's Daniel Faalele is how I'm going to pronounce it for now until I find out how to properly pronounce it. That is the offensive tackle who could also, I'm sure we could also move him to guard too, but offensive lineman out of Minnesota.
I don't think you'd want to move him to guard because of how big he is.
Honestly, you're very right. That's true. He would be a great right tackle, I think, but he's 6'9", 380 pounds. This is, I talked about him the last draft. I actually had him, I think, in the 4th round, but since then he has just skyrocketed up the rankings. I imagine it's because he's 6'9", 380 pounds. So the more I watch on him, the more I read about him, he genuinely might be a late first round pick. So we might not even have a chance to draft him, but he is such a unit. He truly might end up being like the best player out of this draft. Not necessarily, maybe not the most talented, most skilled, but he's going to be the guy where it's like, okay, the Bears won that draft because of him. That was the best guy to come out of the draft for their system. And I think we should absolutely take him. I just look up pictures of this guy, Daniel Faalele out of Minnesota. You will see why he should be not only protecting Justin Fields, but also leading the running game when they are running the ball down like the Vikings' throat or something behind, Dave Montgomery running behind him. You won't even be able to see Dave Montgomery or Tariq Cohen if he ever comes back behind him. So that is my first pick, round 2, the 39th overall pick in the NFL draft, Daniel Faalele.
And I wanted to put this out there too, is the fact of not only how big he is, but like Tony said, like he's already like jumping up in the draft rankings. Like he's already making that much of an impact, and the draft isn't for another 2 months. So just want to put that out there. And also I could see the Bears taking one of their late round picks and swapping this for a late first if he is available. I feel like Tony said, this could be one of the biggest overall, best, most impactful players from this draft for a team. I mean, he's an instant upgrade. I would like to know his injury history, though, because usually when you're moving that much man with those knees, I don't know. They don't really last that long. So would like to see that. But going into the second round, 39 pick for me, I'm going with Kaiir Elam, cornerback from Florida. He's 6'2", 196 pounds. So he's a pretty good size guy. He's put on 10 pounds in college. He's a junior. But from a physical standpoint, he is everything that you want in a corner. He's fast, has great hands, has great reads on the ball. And again, he's big. He's not going to let wide receivers overpower him, and he's able to drive them to the ground. And also running backs in open field, he's going to be able to go against them one-on-one. So he's a lockdown corner. He didn't have the sexiest stats last year. He actually had a bit of a down year, so that might hurt his draft capital a little bit of why he will go into the second round. But the thing is, it's early second round, and he would have been a first round corner if it for his sophomore year alone, which is that what I want to call out. He had 39 total tackles, which for a corner in college is pretty impressive. 28 of those were solo. So he had 11 assists, but 28 were by himself. He had 2 interceptions. And here's the kicker. He had 13 pass deflections in 12 games. He had 1 forced fumble as well, or fumble recovery as well. So this guy is talented. He likes to get after the ball. He likes to be busy. And I could see him, because he had a lower year slightly lower year. I mean, still had 29 total tackles, 1 interception, and 5 pass deflections in his junior year. But he declared for the draft. I could see him kind of having that Jalen Johnson chip on his shoulder, which is something that, I personally like, because, he likes to get after. He's going to want to prove people wrong, and why he still should have been a first-round pick. So I really like this guy out of Florida. That's kind of my take on it. Tony, anything else before we move into our second pick in the 3rd round?
I love just like defensive backs out of the SEC, because you don't have to teach size like with my guy in the Big Ten, but that is, you're going against NFL wide receivers, potentially NFL quarterbacks, depending on obviously who you're playing against, and NFL running backs, and like just all NFL schemes, honestly. So I think that at the very least he will have a head start on some of these other guys that maybe went to smaller schools. I have a guy later in the draft where I think that may hurt him a little bit, but yeah, no, I think it's a great pick.
And speaking of wide receivers, going into the 3rd round, the 71st pick for the Chicago Bears. Again, Tony and I didn't do any trades for this one. We just doing it straight up at what the Bears have as of right now. But I'm going wide receiver with our second pick at 79. David Bell, wide receiver out of Purdue. I know a lot of people want this guy. Tony likes this guy, but Bears Twitter really wants David Bell, and I can see why the more I've learned about him. He is 6'2", 205 for a wide receiver. He's big, he's physical, and he has great hands. And last year alone, I mean, definitely puts him in the conversation as one of the better wide receivers in the draft. Luckily, this is a very stacked draft from every position minus the quarterback for once. So that's why I think he'll slip into the 3rd round. But a huge year last year for Purdue, and he could be a great steal. We're all about steals here in Chicago. Ryan Pace kind of set that up, and now Bears fans are like, all right, that was the one good thing Pace was good steals. So in 2021 for Purdue, he had 93 receptions for 1,286 yards, 13.8 yards per catch with 6 touchdowns. Big target for Justin Fields. Now in the open field, he's super fast too, which is, obviously a plus. But man, this is someone that I really want, because if you can be a big target for Fields, you're fast, you can run over defenders, say less. I would even consider him a 2nd round pick if he becomes a hot topic, kind of like Tony's lineman was over the last couple of weeks. I would even take him with the 39th pick as of right now. But the way he falls in his rankings, according to CBS, I got him at 71. Tony, I like your next pick too, because I know you're saying with the wide receiver class, but David Bell's my guy. Anything before you go into your guy?
Yeah, David Bell was going to be my pick at this position, but you filled this out before me, so that's the only reason I had it. I had to go a different route.
You're welcome.
Stayed with the wide receiver though, same kind of general concept. I do love David Bell. Won me some bets for sure. Betting on Purdue against like Michigan State and stuff. So I would be ecstatic if we got him. You're right. The internet loves this man. So my pick, I ended up going with. So that David Bell would be my pick here, but because I wanted to give another guy as well. Justyn Ross, spelled with a Y, not an I. Justyn Ross, wide receiver out of Clemson.
Already different. Already like him.
Exactly. 6'4", 205, just a big boy. Like you said, Nick, this is such a deep wide receiver class, and the free agent class, which we went over, I believe that was last week or earlier this week. It's just such a deep class. These guys could fall just because teams might genuinely they just might not need a wide receiver, So I think he will be, or he could be the best available at this point, just because, or no, he might not be the best available at this point. My apologies. Just because, like I said, guys might fall. So again, David Bell might be there. But CBS does rank him the 9th best wide receiver in the draft. He would be a top target, in my opinion, if we're going to go with what I believe we should do and go with size to kind of pair with Darnell Mooney, who's that small, quick receiver. Have someone big over the top. I know we focused on that on our wide receiver free agency episode. So he is coming off an injury. He did have surgery. He did miss the last half of the season. That's another reason I think he will fall. That's actually, I wouldn't be surprised if he had fallen down to the 4th round, but we don't have a 4th round pick. So that was kind of why I decided we should kind of get him here. But what's good is he is a big guy. Size is not necessarily you can't hurt size as much with an injury as you can speed or maybe necessarily jumping ability. But I'm not too worried about his ability to bounce back because he should be a good guy in the short yardage, goal line, and just kind of jump ball situations. I think that's a guy that Justin Fields would benefit having, especially with his cannon of an arm. Just kind of throw it up to him. Like Jamar Chase, obviously not necessarily size-wise, but Jamar Chase, just throw it up, let him catch it. So that's my
big
pick
targets
there.
is key. Big targets is key. I like that. I like that pick, Tony, a lot. This is why this is Tony's best draft so far.
So now we're going to move to round 5, pick 146 via Houston, the Houston Texans. So this would be a guy I would draft to defend the wide receiver I just listed. This is a guy that I think would pair really well with Jalen Johnson. And I will kind of get into that in a second after I introduce him. Tariq Woolen. That has to be how that's pronounced. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So corner out of UTSA. I love the University of Texas, San Antonio, the Roadrunners, I believe. 6'4", 210. Another just big boy. I'm going for size. I think that's what you'll find out as this goes along.
I got you on that. I know your last draft you had a couple smaller guys minus that one lineman, but now I think everyone's starting to go to we need everyone's above 6 foot.
Yeah, because I realized too, our team is kind of small. Like we have a lot of really fast, just like good football players, but we have a lot of small guys. Again, if Tariq Cohen comes back, if obviously we'll have Darnell Mooney back if we re-sign. His name is escaping me. The kick returner that is awesome, and I love him.
Jakeem Grant.
Jakeem Grant. Oh,
5'6",
I knew that's what it was.
5'6" on a good day.
Again, so yeah, we need these big guys, but on defense, we also need someone who can cover a bigger receiver. So Jalen Johnson can cover the team's top receiver, just be Jalen Johnson. Tariq can kind of cover the taller guys out there, even a tight end if we needed to in short yardage, goal line, and jump ball situations. Kind of the opposite of what we need the tall wide receiver for. UTSA was a fantastic team this year. I loved watching. I loved betting on them. And although they were not a Power 5 team, I fully trust that their most recent team this past year can produce NFL level talent.
Absolutely. And before we go into our next pick, Tony's bets for this Friday, for this upcoming weekend, stay tuned. We're going into that right now. So stay tuned for after that. We'll continue with my pick, but right now, Tony's bets.
I got 3 great bets for you. They are all on Friday night. So if you're watching this late on Friday night, you might have missed them. Apologize for that. We're trying to figure out how to keep up with the lines and kind of get everything out for our Friday show. Either way, follow me at my Twitter handle below. Stay up to date with my picks throughout the weekend. Definitely got some Bulls picks coming up for Saturday and just in general for the future. So we're going to start with my first pick. It's USA, baby. University of South Alabama, -8.5. They are taking on University of Texas Arlington, UT Arlington. UT Arlington kind of stinks. USA, baby, all the way. They're honestly just the better team. I can give you a bunch of stats if you want, but they're really good at home. That's basically all you need to know. And they should cover that easily. It'll probably be a double-digit win for USA. So hop on that one if you can. That starts at 7 o'clock Central Time on Friday. Then I got over 125 in San Jose State at San Diego State. That is a 10 p.m. tip on Friday night. So you should have plenty of time to get that one in. The last time they faced each other was about, I believe it was right before the start of the year, December 30th, I believe it was. The total was 126. It went over. So we're looking again, see if we can get that over coming in. San Jose State is fantastic. I actually thought about taking them -22. So if you're thinking about if you want to bet either side of that game, I'd maybe look at that. My official pick is the over. San Jose State is not as bad as some people think they are. San Jose State is fantastic, though. There will be enough points scored in that game. Should hit the over. And then that leads me to my final pick. This one's actually at 8:10 p.m. Central Time. Just kind of want to keep the college basketball together. Phoenix Suns -7.5. This is the NBA, of course. Phoenix Suns at home against the New Orleans Pelicans. Pelicans stink. Pelicans are weird right now. They got some Zion drama. They just it's just weird. They're going into Phoenix. Phoenix, like I said, got to be at home. That's across 2 time zones, I believe. I believe Phoenix is in Phoenix. Follows Pacific time. If not, I'm an idiot, so never mind. But I mean, Phoenix is just a fantastic team. They actually don't cover very well, but they have enough firepower. They'll win this game by at least 8. They should. There's no reason they should not. And those are my 3 picks. So hopefully we go 3-0. If you want to try to fade me, go for it. Take all the opposites of those. Let me know how you do. And And maybe I'll start calling it fade my picks instead of follow my picks. So everyone have a good weekend, and back to you, Nick.
All right. And with that, going back to the 5th round, so 146 pick via Houston, I'm going with Brandon Smith, linebacker out of Penn State. The Bears obviously aren't sure if they're going to re-sign Alec Ogletree. You know, he is an older guy, but he did us a pretty solid year alongside Roquan Smith. I think that with the new defensive scheme, he'll do even better if the Bears decide to keep him. But even if they don't, I think this is a guy that the Bears should go after for depth. He's 6'3", 241 pounds. That's a big dude. I mean, like this whole thing, this entire has been physical size in regards to the NFL player. And, you know, he's a big linebacker. And the last guy we're in the 5th round right now. And the last guy we took in the 5th round from a defensive side of the ball out of Penn State was Adrian Amos. And look how that turned out before he went to Green Bay. He was pretty good on Chicago too. But his 2021 stats are super impressive. But if for some reason they have him ranked pretty low, he had 81 total tackles, 45 of those being solo, so over half. He had 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 5 pass deflections for a linebacker. This guy is big. He has a big wingspan. He's able to go after the ball, and he brings that ball hawk mentality that the Bears love to have and Bears fans love for their defense. Because obviously the last couple of seasons, our offense has been able to score the ball. We were blessed in 2018 with all those interceptions and takeaways, and we missed that, and I think that he could bring that edge. And it would be a great pairing with Roquan Smith. You know, almost equal in size. Roquan Smith can mentor him. It can kind of be like that Briggs Urlacher, duo for a pretty long time. I could see that happening for the Chicago Bears, and I'm pretty excited if Brandon Smith were to fall to Chicago. So I think this is our second to last pick. 5th round, 148th. So 2 picks later after the other 5th round pick we have is I'm finally going with the offensive line. I haven't done that yet, but I know that is a need for the Chicago Bears. I personally think that the Bears are going to go after free agents. That's going to be the big free agency spot for the Chicago Bears. I think that wide receiver, they're going to be big in the draft. Same with linebacker, but in regards to, and DB, but in regards to offensive line, the Bears are going to want to go for experience. And I am going with JaMaree Salyer, offensive lineman. So he's a hybrid. He can be a tackle, he can be a center, or he can be a guard. From Georgia. He just won a national title. You're on one of the best offensive lines in the nation. And they have him ranked low because this is a pretty stacked offensive line. Literally every position minus the quarterback is stacked this year in the draft. There's a lot of talent coming out, and I feel like he could be a great late round steal for the Chicago Bears, kind of like Larry Borom was this past year for a lineman. He's 6'4", 325. He's a big dude and could add depth and be a big interior guy if we need him, if we wanted to move Whitehair or Daniels over to the center position, which both have played. But I think the Bears are going to go after, again, a big free agent offensive lineman this year in the draft. So in free agency. So that's why I think the draft, they might worry about other positions first. But about him, according to 247sports.com or 247sports.com, this guy has everything you want in a lineman. On their scale of 1 to 10, their ranking of him is strength 9, punch 9, run blocking 9, pass blocking 9. What more do you want? And his footwork was an 8. So not bad. I mean, I like him a lot. I think that he could fall. But if the Bears get this guy, great depth player for sure out of the gate, could be a starter in a year or two. So Tony, I love this next pick because he's from ASU, strictly because of that, because this means this guy loves to not only have a good time, but he is a little crazy. So who are you going with with the 148th pick?
Yeah, so I decided, pick someone who would be a good wingman out in the playpen for Roquan Smith. We know he had a little fun out there the past couple of years. So I believe it is Dohnanan West. So he's got a little different spelling. He's got an H in there, which kind of threw me off. So he's a defensive lineman out of, like you said, Arizona State, 6'4", 300 pounds, big boy. So
big boy.
My vision for him is basically Eddie Goldman. Just a big boy that can plug up the middle. So we may need him to replace Bilal Nichols, and maybe a guy that, or at least, be able to fill in on, if we do it D-line by committee. So we need a big boy in the middle to help stop the run if Hicks and Nichols leave. And with the uncertainty, obviously, surrounding Eddie Goldman, it would just be nice, again, just to have the size. It's a very deep defensive line draft. So he honestly might be available in the 6th round. So I'm not going to say we need to reach for this guy or anything, but I'm okay with also if they like this guy, they think this is the guy that can replace, that can kind of fill that need of just size on the defensive line. I'm okay with going to get your guy when you can. So that is my pick in the 5th round.
And I just want to say one thing real fast. The only defensive tackle, or we have two. We have Blackson, and then we have Tonga, are the only ones that have been like comfortable knowing that they're going to be on the roster next year. Just want to throw that out there real fast. But Tony, 6th round, 185th pick, last for sure pick for the Chicago Bears that we know of right now. Who are you going with and why?
So this pick is partially on name. His name is Darrien Beavers. Fantastic name. Linebacker out of Cincinnati, if you recall, a top 4 college football team in the college football playoff. Very good team, although not from a Power 5 conference. He's 6'4", 255. Dick Butkus Award finalist. Shout out Dick Butkus. We love you. That's also a great award. You know you're doing something right when you're a finalist for that award, especially, again, from a non-Power 5 conference. He was first team all AAC selection. Great defensive player, just in general. He had a sack in each of his first 5 games. 98 tackles on the season. I was looking at his tackles per year, and I think he had like 15 his first year, 27 his next year, 30, 48, 50, and then 98. So he really went hard this year, and he would be a great guy to pair up with Roquan Smith. Also could be a fun time out in the playpen with him, but I think in general it would just be a good compliment, especially we're switching to a 4-3 defense. I think he would be a good guy to kind of fill that role.
I mean, he's big, and that's a 6'4", 255 moving like Roquan Smith is no joke. That's a lot of earth being moved. And here's my last pick, and this is just for fun. This is just for the absolute
Mr. Irrelevant, of our mock draft.
But he could be somebody. He could be like Hicks, who wasn't too known in college, but Noah Elliss, defensive tackle from Idaho. This is why I like him. 6'4", okay, tall. 367 pounds. Holy shnikes. He would go out there and be like, he'd go in front of someone and would sumo step down and be like ready to go. Like, if I was an opposing offensive lineman, I'd be like, holy crap. Like, did this guy eat the buffet? Like, he's a big body monster that could be in the middle alongside Tonga. Just imagine him and Hicks. Like, it would just be crazy. But there's not too much stats to him. He only had 18 tackles and 1 sack this past season. But again, his size is the only reason why he is on CBS's top 150 prospects ranking. But that can change quickly. I mean, this guy could have a great camp, could, probably rep out, 225, probably 150 times and eat a cheeseburger while he's doing it. But man, just because he's ranked low and his size is there, watch next mock draft. That's going to happen. He's going to be like in the 2nd round. That's like one of the biggest deals. So that is our mock draft. Tony, one more thing you got before we go?
Yep. Final thing, just an overall comment on our draft. I like that we're just like, all right, the entire NFL is going small, quick, whatever. We're like, you know what? Let's zig while everyone else is zagging or whatever that term is. And let's just get the biggest team possible. You know what? I like it. I think it'll work. If you just do the same thing as everyone else is doing, and they're better at it than you, you're not going to beat them. You got to do something different. I think that's what we're doing. Or it's not going to work.
I mean, like, if it ain't, the monsters of the Midway. Like, monsters are usually big and scary. Yeah. So why not go out and get the biggest and scariest that there is, and have them around for a long time for a cheap contract? That's all I got to say to that. So, Tony, I think this was your best draft ever. So hats off to you. Out of our 2 drafts, we probably have 8 more coming. So 8 more weeks, we got 8 more coming. That's just what it is. So with that, thank you very much for joining this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Rohde, joined alongside Tony Cepeda, and we'll see you guys next time.